Bruce Willis as a whimsical master thief in Hudson Hawk, an overstuffed caper comedy in which unfortunately every character, I mean every character, including the villains, tries too hard to be funny. The result is a well-intentioned movie that tries to be different, but just wears us out. Willis plays Hudson Hawk, fresh out of prison, who along with partner Danny Aiello sings his way through a theft of a Leonardo da Vinci sculpture that contains part of an ancient machine that can transform base metals into gold.
You could be better than you are. You could be swinging on a star.
The song is cute as they try for a sort of Hope and Crosby effect, but then enter the rest of the nutty characters, including a couple of rich weirdos played by Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard, who want to buy the stolen sculpture at auction. Andy McDowell plays a Vatican art expert.
$100 million and one.
Outbid by mine own wench, quelle belle mère.
Don't hate me, baby.
Also after the priceless machinery, a couple of mobsters chasing after Bruce Willis. Nothing, but nothing is simple in this film.
Subtlety is not one of our strong points.
And then there's the CIA, led by James Coburn. Everybody tries to top everyone else in this picture with gag lines. It's too much.
Don't I know you?
The last time you saw me, I was bald with a beard and no mustache. And I had a different nose. So if you don't recognize me, I won't be offended.
My high school science teacher?
Hudson Hawk might have worked if only Willis and Danny Aiello, say, had been the silly ones, and everyone they met was super straight. Also, the whole bit about the Da Vinci alchemy machine doesn't work. The machine looks cheap, like out of some 50s children's film. Hudson Hawk does have some funny lines from Bruce Willis, but this project was ill-conceived, I think, right at the script level.
It was. In fact, it's unbelievable that anyone could have read the script of this movie and thought that it could be produced as a successful film, because every single line starts from zero and gets to nowhere. It's one of these movies where there's no way for the audience to get involved because everything is arbitrary. The speech we just heard by James Coburn, I don't know what that was about. I don't know what it meant, and I don't know why it was supposed to be funny. I also didn't like the fact that throughout the movie, people would jump out of windows, and instead of being killed, they would land in chairs, sitting next to somebody who would start talking to them. People turn up coincidentally without any explanation on 2 different continents, to the point where you're just sitting there feeling whoever made this movie was completely addled. There was just absolutely no window for the audience to get in through to get into the story. Well, it's just, we're kept out of it.
You know enough about the history of movies to know what kind of a style they're going for. They're trying to do the Hope and Crosby routine. They're trying to do a little bit of Abbott and Costello, and they're trying to bring in all these kinds of things, and it's too much. It just doesn't work at all. Now, I had very low expectations when I went to see this film, and yet I enjoyed it, much to my amazement. There is something, I think, about the dance musical form that can override even the most hackneyed script. This is a story of a high school math teacher with a split personality. By day, he teaches rich kids. By night, he returns to his Latino roots and dances at the local club where lambada is the rage. After dancing, he teaches the local poor kids some math so they can get a high school diploma. Levada concludes not with a dance contest, as you might expect, but with a math contest between the rich and the poor. J. Eddie Peck is solid as the teacher, and Melora Hardin is captivating, I think, as the student who is infatuated with him. They're both very good on the dance floor, even though the director, Joe Silberg, doesn't know how to shoot the full-length dancer's body, like Fred Astaire used to do. He's always shooting mostly from the butt up. This movie becomes an instant guilty pleasure for me, a film I'm almost embarrassed to admit held my attention. I'm almost embarrassed, but not really, because I'm prepared to defend it now against Roger's sure attack.
You should be embarrassed, Gene, because first of all, this is not a good dance musical. It has very, very few dance sequences in it. They're badly lit, badly photographed, badly choreographed.
Right.
And you're quite right. The camera is so high on most of these people that you cannot go to this movie and find out from it how the lambada is danced. I don't have a clue how to do the lambada from having seen this movie. Then we get to the story, which involves teaching the poor kids how to find the cosine and use a protractor in order to line up their pool shots. This is like, I don't know if I want to call this movie Clean Dancing instead of Dirty Dancing, or it's like a remake of Stand and Deliver. Who in the world wants to go to a Levada movie that ends with a trigonometry bee? I mean, this movie,
Roger,
the audience that I sat there and saw it with, they were stunned. The last 15 minutes of this movie consists of mathematical questions.
I know. Now,
and
wait a
what
second.
does it have to do with anything?
They were stunned. I was stunned. And I thought, you know, this picture is obviously combining two wildly different things. First of all, I didn't even believe that they were in high school. When it says high school at the end, wait a second, I'm criticizing it now. When they said high school at the end, I was shocked. I thought it was college.
Every high school student in this movie is played by an actor who looks like he's in his 20s.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I liked that about it. And what
Why
I need
did
to
you
say,
like that
wait,
about
I'm going to tell you exactly why.
I'm sure you will.
Something that I said, the musical form.
Where's the music? That's the key flaw in your argument. The musical form overcomes everything. There isn't enough music, and there isn't enough dancing.
Can I ask you something? Were you bored by the picture, or were you captivated by it?
I was stunned by the picture. I was stunned that anyone would make this picture. I was stunned by the fact that...
There are parts of it that are so bad, and there are parts of it that are strong, and I think you do know a little bit how to do the dance. You just get close and work out.
Gene, I knew that when I was 17 years old, and this movie doesn't know as much as I knew when I was 17.
In style, story, and tone, Spider-Man has a lot more in common with the first Christopher Reeve Superman than with the original Batman, which had a more conflicted superhero and a much darker and more interesting look. You'd probably be freaking out if you discovered you were part arachnid, but Peter's transformation is played mostly for laughs. If it weren't for the occasional voiceover, you'd hardly think he was troubled at all by his fate. But then again, maybe we shouldn't expect the movie to take itself too seriously when the lead is a teenager in tights who bungee jumps across Manhattan. I am giving thumbs up to Spider-Man as an energetic romp.
You know, my thumb is down on this movie, but it's sort of a split decision. I do like the details of Spider-Man's origin story, and Tobey Maguire does a good job of playing the insecure and shy Peter Parker. But the action scenes lack presence and conviction. When you see Spider-Man flying through the skies and leaping between buildings, he looks like an artificial cartoon character. He moves too fast, without the weight and presence of flesh and blood. The movie could have done more with the scenes where Peter Parker learns of his new powers, and the special effects could have taken themselves more seriously and not seemed so lightweight and perfunctory. There's a moment when he comes from the top of a skyscraper all the way down to street level and back up again, and I never felt for 1 second that was like a 140-pound teenage boy. It looked more like Mighty Mouse.
See, I would disagree. Mighty Mouse, yeah, a little bit. It does have that, you know, that colorful comic book feel, and we do agree that there should have been, I think, a little darker side. I mean, if this happened to you, you'd be going, my God, I'm going to be this spider creature. But I would disagree with you about the special effects. I thought when Spider-Man is going through the streets of Manhattan, it really looked like he was swinging from building to building and jumping here and sticking against walls here in the scene where he has to choose between Mary Jane and the trolley car, whatever it is, full of kids. That's pretty good stuff. That looks pretty good to me.
Take that scene where he has to decide, and without giving too much away, he winds up with a trolley car.
That's a good scene.
So, it isn't, because you never get the feeling that there's real weight involved. There's one perfunctory shot of the spider web kind of pulling off against whatever it's hanging from, but you don't get the idea that real tension and real risk are involved.
To have some sort of special effect where people were pushing you in your seat so you'd feel the weight of this stuff.
I felt that I visually...
The sound is great when the cables are flicking through the air.
No, visually,
I thought it looked pretty good.
The boss of a powerful drug company has just issued orders for a new tranquilizer to be rushed into production with hilarious results in Brain Candy, an audacious, clever, very funny new satire from the comedy troupe known as Kids in the Hall. They play many of their parts in drag, and the joke doesn't stop there. What they have to say is as funny as how they look. The drug they've designed is a feel-good pill, and it's possible to view Brain Candy as an indictment of the happy as a clam and excited to be one drug called Prozac.
How do you feel, patient 957? Oh, like a fresh towel drying on the line on a summer's day. Oh, I feel like a little worm peeking its head out of the ground after a rainstorm and seeing no robin.
The Brain Candy players are also funny just conversing as they put down the artifice of adult behavior in the corporate business world.
I thought of the name for the drug. Gleamin' X. Slogan?
Lehman X makes it feel like it's 72 degrees in your head all the time.
I think this is very funny stuff. Brain Candy will appeal to young moviegoers who are fans of Kids in the Hall. I've seen them a couple of times on late-night TV, and I often thought they seemed good only by comparison with the recent Saturday Night Live troops. But in Brain Candy, they're funnier than they've ever been on TV, and I recommend this picture as kind of a midnight show cult picture, which I suspect it's destined to become.
Boy, are we apart on this one.
Oh.
I did not laugh once. I thought this movie was awful,
Oh, no, Roger.
dreadful,
No.
terrible,
No.
stupid, idiotic,
No.
unfunny,
No.
labored, forced,
Oh, Roger.
painful.
Roger, this is
bad.
What happened to your sense of humor?
I've
Once in
got
a
my
while-
sense of humor. That was what my sense of humor was, starving for a laugh as I
Oh,
looked
no,
at
Roger.
this movie.
First of all, the drag stuff was
So
funny.
what?
What do you mean? So
Okay,
what? If it's
they're in
funny...
drag.
No,
Why is
no,
it funny? Why is it funny that they're in drag?
It's not funny that they're in drag.
No,
I've
no,
knocked
they're
pictures
not.
where people have
No,
been
no,
in
no,
drag
no.
when they're not funny.
No,
I'm
no,
saying,
no,
obviously,
they're in drag and they're
laughing.
not funny.
You didn't get the stuff about the drug and...
Oh, I caught on.
What happened, Roger?
We're different universes here. We can't talk about it. Can't talk about it. It's not funny. I didn't laugh
We
once.
get paid to talk about it, Roger.
Okay.
Let's talk about
Tell
it.
me one funny moment in the movie.
There are dozens of funny moments. Every
Okay,
time
just
I
choose
see
one.
Every single time, I laugh throughout the picture.
Okay.
I laugh throughout the
Well,
picture.
I'm happy for you.
No. But, well, at least it's a start. It's a smile. Roger, will you look at this picture again? Maybe...
Sure I will. I'd be happy to. Sometime maybe in the 21st century.
Brain candy, Roger. Brain candy.
I wish some
Check
for
it
you,
out.
Gene.
Check it out.
I think
No,
you've
no,
been
no.
taking too much of it.
No, I'll tell you what. I'm going to see this picture again. I'm going to laugh just as hard.
Okay, maybe I will, too.
Men. There's no ointment.
Say, let me tell you, let me remind you who you're talking to. Only this year's recipient of the coveted Mr. Inseam Award. Well, that shut him up.
A boy played by Elijah Wood gets fed up with his folks in that scene from North and decides that since they don't pay attention to him, he will divorce them and go looking for a new set of parents. And that's the setup for one of the most thoroughly hateful movies of recent years, a movie that makes me cringe even when I'm sitting here thinking about it. Look at this scene, for example, where young North is in court trying to dump his parents who are comatose with shock.
And there's nothing left for me to do but make my judgment. And in my judgment, any folks who would sleep through a trial like this are folks who don't deserve to have a wonderful, upstanding son like North.
Then there's a series of auditions as would-be parents from around the country try out for the role of North's new mom and dad. Dan Aykroyd and Reba McEntire are a couple of absurd Texans who want to adopt him.
We had a son who was trampled by a ton of longhorns, but you're here cutes to fill his boots as flat as they may be.
Next stop, the Hawaiian Islands, where we get some amazingly tasteless dialogue about why these two people don't have children.
Hawaii is a lush and fertile land. In fact, there's only one barren area on all of our islands. Unfortunately, it's Mrs. Holt.
A mysterious character keeps turning up on North's travels. He's played by Bruce Willis as an Easter Bunny, a Western ranch hand, a beachcomber, and a Federal Express driver who gets in lots of product plugs. I hated this movie as much as any movie we've ever reviewed in the 19 years we've been doing this show. I hated it because of the premise, which seemed shockingly cold-hearted, and because this premise is being suggested to kids as children's entertainment, and because everybody in the movie was vulgar and stupid, and because the jokes weren't funny, and because most of the characters were obnoxious, and because of the phony attempt to add a little pseudo-hip philosophy with a Bruce Willis character. Now, I think Elijah Wood is a fine young actor, and of course, Rob Reiner, the director, has made one terrific movie after another, so I would prefer to consider North as just a very unfortunate aberration in these otherwise admirable careers.
Well, I mean, I think you got to hold Rob Reiner's feet to the fire here. I mean, he's the guy in charge. He's saying that this is entertainment. It's deplorable. I mean, there isn't a gag that works. You couldn't write worse jokes if I told you to write worse jokes.
And, of course, you could always...
The ethnic stereotyping is appalling.
Yes.
It's embarrassing. You feel unclean as you're sitting there. It's junk. First-class junk.
And then the idea that kids might be lured in by television ads to see this movie about a little child who, you know, throws away his parents and goes shopping for a new set. It's really...
Any subject could be done well. This is just trash, Roger.
Okay.
And boy, was I shocked by the new Batman movie. It's so overproduced. Every scene is so action-filled that the movie does all of the thinking and emoting for us, and you just sit there looking at dazzling effects, yes, but you still feel bored. Add to that an unending parade of leering, double entendre jokes centered on the male anatomy, and you have an extravagant, often tasteless bore. I saw plenty of walkouts at the public screening I attended, and I would have been there with them. Here's the opening action scene as Batman and Robin first encounter Mr. Freeze in the Gotham Museum of Natural History. He's trying to steal a giant diamond.
You are not sending me to the cooler.
So far, so good. Too bad we're only 10 minutes into the movie as the scene continues.
Stay cool, bird boy.
Batman has another adversary in the film, a lissome creature known as Poison Ivy, played by a languorous Uma Thurman. One problem with her character, she spreads poison, but no one itches. They just swoon.
Why are all the gorgeous ones homicidal maniacs? Is it me?
Part of the byplay between Batman and Robin involves jealousy.
She's infected us with some sort of pheromone extract.
Oh, is that what it is, Bruce? I'm under some kind of magic spell?
She wants to kill you, Dick.
Well, I've already delivered my criticism of Batman and Robin. The action sequences are overstuffed. They're burdened by wall-to-wall music. The joking is all below the belt. George Clooney is a good-looking bore in his role, and boring is the last word I would have expected to use so often in describing such a high-powered and, again, well-produced but overproduced Batman movie.
I didn't like it either, Gene, although I guess I liked it a little more than you did. I would give it 2 stars. How many would you give
That's
it?
exactly what I'm giving, Roger.
Okay, fine. It is true that the action sequences are so busy that you can't get involved in them. They're too hard to follow. It's like there's a pinball machine with all 5 balls on the machine at the same time. And as for Clooney as Batman, you know, I realize this time it doesn't matter who plays Batman.
Right.
I think they cast him according to the chin, which is all you can see when he has the costume on, because there's no real interest in the Batman and Robin characters. It's always the villains.
Yeah.
And these villains are not really up there with Jack Nicholson, Danny DeVito, Tommy Lee Jones. But even apart from that, there were so many questions about Batman and Robin that would be interesting to answer if the movie had any serious interest in its characters.
Also, but Tim Burton is another level of filmmaker than Joel Schumacher, and Tim Burton puts a psychological approach in his filmmaking that is at least more interesting. We've liked the other pictures. Here, you're quite right. There is nothing, there's no human element. When the butler is the one thing that you respond to emotionally because he may die, that's a sad commentary.
And his niece comes from England, Alicia Silverstone, without a British accent, and is kind of a disappointment as
Yes,
Batgirl.
she is.
Actually, I did like Uma Thurman, though, as Poison Ivy. She has some good
Wouldn't the scratching have been, if Poison Ivy, why not have somebody scratch? I mean, they even blew that obvious thing.
The Great White Shark attacks again in Jaws the Revenge, the 4th movie, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the theater. And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. That's one of 4 movies we'll review this week, and the question I always have is, when you see the shark at the top of the water, you only see its fin coming out, and yet when you get the shark's point of view, like we just saw,
looking at the people,
it's like its eyes are above the water, too. That's a logical error among many logical errors.
You've got that right. We saw the same movie. I'm Gene Siskel, the Chicago Tribune. All the major players are gone from Jaws the Revenge, except Roy Scheider's wife, and her name is now just a trivia question. Ellen Brody, played by Lorraine Gary, wife of the boss of MCA Universal Pictures, which happens to make the Jaws movies. 3D failed to save the series the last time out. This time an idiotic script sinks the whole show. The premise, Ellen Brody is a widow. Roy Scheider's character has died, meaning Scheider has enough sense to know when to stop bilking the public. And his wife in the film is convinced that a great white shark has a grudge against her family. Now, you can just hear those sharks talking. I'm going to get me a Brody if it's the last thing I do. I guess that's what they say.
Very realistic. Shark talk there,
I know.
Yes.
That would have been more interesting than the movie. Anyway, here's an example of Ellen Brody's fear. The scene is very early in the picture, so veteran moviegoers should be able to figure it out. Like they say on Saturday Night Live, I hate when that happens. A dream sequence. People were groaning in the theater when that happened. I mean, I want to go up and punch a hole in the screen.
They were groaning when that happened. How about the next dream sequence? Another It's Only a Dream.
I can't stand the dream sequences. Why do they do that in the movie? If there's anything that annoys an audience, it's the dream sequence. I hate that stunt. It's old, it's cheap, it's a lousy gimmick, and I wish they would stop doing it. And that describes a whole movie. You want to probably see what the shark looks like. They show more of it this time, and by showing more of it, actually, at the end, it sort of looks fake. As for the final confrontation, Michael Caine plays a pilot who joins Ellen Brody and one of her sons, the other's dead, and one of his friends in trying to drive the shark crazy by first making it swallow an electronic beeper box, death by noise. This movie is so badly made that the death of the shark isn't even set up well. There's a key shot missing so that we don't even get the whole picture. We walk out of the theater very frustrated. And that last scene is preceded by one of the most glaring errors in recent movie history. Michael Caine has been in the water, has swum to safety onto the boat, but in the very next scene, his shirt is as dry as if it had just been freshly laundered. Let's hope this is the end of the Jaws series. The first film was thrilling and well acted. The rest have been trash.
It's not even the next shot. Michael Caine actually comes over the rail out of the water, and he's totally dry. I was sitting in the theater, and I said, his shirt is dry. The preview audience appreciated that. I always hate it when people talk during the movies, but I don't know. That seemed to go over pretty well.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. I may be very badly confused here. In this, usually am. In this movie, this shark wants revenge against the Brody family.
You got it.
Yes, okay. Now, in the first movie, what happened to the shark in the first movie?
Dead.
Blown to pieces, right?
Yeah.
What happened to the shark in the second movie?
I know, dead.
You're right. What happened to the shark in the third movie?
They all die.
They all die. So in that case,
their family.
What shark is this?
A friend of the other shark.
Is this like a cousin, a nephew?
You got it.
A next-door neighbor?
And you know what's so great?
What?
You see, by having this gimmick, that means that even though this one dies, she still was going to stay living in that stupid town instead of moving into the Middle West where she should be, away from sharks.
So in any event, all sharks have a revenge against the Brody family.
You got it.
Right, okay, I got that. Until then, the balcony is closed.